Yo, Swain, did you see all this stuff on Game Informer? I mean, I'm going crazy.
Oh my god, how can I miss it?
The new raid is going to be so long, and there's like new strikes, the revamped strikes.
They can just show up out of nowhere and have all these new abilities.
Guys.
Really? Like, that's going to be tough.
Oh, it looks so good. Yeah, PvE is going to be just like...
Yo, guys. You guys.
Yeah?
Do you even know what show we're on?
Crucible Radio.
I'm making a comeback like an auto rifle. But KD hot all about survival. But I blink off the map like I'm suicidal. Need advice from a voice, they be writing the Bible. Got Swain with the mitre, running a mile. Never salty, just flash a smile. Birds with the Francis cloak and no land beyond. Dude always does with style, I'll kill you like a pump. Bam, Blink 180 shoot. Why would I ever reload? I'm just using bad juju. This is the Crucible, put down your Galahorn. You can't kill me, dude, cause I am fireborn. Vault space shouldn't slow you down. Master the meta, you'll wear the crown. You know my team gets a W. Got more marks than I'm allowed. My fire team's so hot. Got 3 flags on lockdown. Your fire team is not. Y'all still trying to use final round. Woo! Okay, need a quick break. Can we go turn in some bounties? Oh, I'm the fire team captain. Okay. Alright. I'm about to go full auto. I'm at the lighthouse, you floating in orbit. Flipping the spawn because I know what I force. And now we running up the score, they consider it forfeit. Oh my god, I can't wait for this nerf to thorn. I got Mida, multi-tool, 4 head shots, death, running left around you names. That's why I'm so out of breath. I'm going in and I can't stop. Your child's playing with that hopscotch. Still snipe you on blind watch, then I'll smack you around with my flame touch. Not afraid to shoot the messenger. You wait for me, you're in danger. I'm going to...
Yo, Bones, you gotta check out this new montage I'm working on.
Damn it, Triple Rex, just let me have this one, okay? Please? Welcome to the Crucible, yeah, we got that space magic. This is no place for mercy, your last words could get tragic. Crucible Radio, you know we making havoc. This is no place for mercy, your last words could get tragic.
Hey, Birds. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm pretty excited, to be honest. Hey, Bones, how you feeling today?
I'm doing so great today, dude. Swain, how are you?
I am wonderful.
I would honestly be a little surprised if you weren't doing so great, Bones. I've come to rely on it every Thursday night.
One of these days, I'm going to come on the show and be like, guys, I'm not doing so hot. I'm real sad
worried
today.
Somebody bring this guy some soup.
And hey, listeners, hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Crucible Radio. That's the podcast you're listening to right now, either on iTunes or on YouTube or on some weird Android app, because some people do that, I found out.
Yeah.
But anyways...
Don't even know about these Android apps.
Exactly. You're listening to the podcast about Destiny PvP. Right, guys?
That's it. That's the show. We're all here just trying to get to that next level, trying to learn a little bit more and play a little bit better and figure out what we're doing wrong and try and stop doing it and start doing the other things and getting good at them.
Getting good.
And we have had a crazy week. I mean, wow, it's been nuts.
Just nuts.
What happened was we premiered on PlanetDestiny.com. We've partnered up with them to put our podcast on their channel and share with their listeners awesome tips and tricks and all this fun stuff on the Crucible. And now we're up on YouTube, which is a new place you can listen to us there. It's a great website if you haven't heard of it, youtube.com.
That's youtube.net?
.com. It's a .com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that might stand for
.fed?
company.
.gov?
No, you do not go to youtube.gov.
It's a scary place.
Not what you think it is.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy, and we found a lot of people found our show for the first time, and we want to say hello to those listeners.
A lot of people.
Right?
Hey, guys. Welcome.
Hola.
So we usually start off the show by just giving a little bit of update on our personal progress. You know, we play Destiny, we play against each other, we play a lot of Crucible, and we try and keep track of how we've improved, maybe how we've gotten worse week by week. So yeah, I don't know, Bones, why don't you kick it off?
All right.
How's your last week been?
My last week has been interesting. I've just been trying out kind of different things. I started playing Sunsinger in a game type that was not elimination, which I have done maybe twice in the history of Destiny, but I started going into control games as a Sunsinger, and it was very interesting. I had to learn how to play at a different tempo. One thing I've noticed, and I've been saying this for the past few weeks, but my 6v6 game is so off after I've gotten to love 3v3, and my KD has sort of plummeted. And we've been debating on this show about how much we want to talk about our numbers, and there's been people who have asked to hear that, but it comes down to the fact that a lot of things on Destiny tracker, you can boost those numbers. You can, it's kind of based on time spent played, and those numbers, they don't affect as much. Maybe I would post or update the listeners on my numbers and stuff like that, but I don't want our listeners to get too in their heads about KD, because that's what's been happening to me the past 2 weeks. I've been so focused on my KD. I started a new hunter, and I was like, yes, I can really start out the gate being good, and you'll see this nice 2.0, and then I didn't hit 2.0 as many times as I wanted, and I realized my average was going down because I was so focused on that.
It contributes to the salt too. If you get if you're so focused on your KD, you start to tilt a little bit.
You get that tilt going. You stop thinking about the game objective. You stop thinking about helping your teammates, and you just think about getting as many kills as you want, and that's not the mark of a good Crucible player. A good Crucible player is aware of their surroundings and aware of what their teammates are doing and keeping their team alive and staying alive, because it's tough, and maybe there's some stats to look at on Destiny Tracker that you could definitely improve off of, but I just want to make sure our listeners aren't just staring at their Destiny Tracker all day, refreshing after every game and wondering if they've gotten better. So that's how I'm doing.
Oh, that charged pause right there. Swain, what's your week been like?
I've been doing all right. We did some sweaties yesterday, which made me get as salty as I have been in the past month.
Oh, boy.
But I actually made quite the decision this week to start fresh with a new PSN. And
wait, like fresh, all the way fresh?
Like as fresh as you can get. And
100% fresh. That's our sway.
It's daunting. I will admit that I'm a little afraid, but it's given me a chance to get ready for the Taken King and like stuff like people that are concerned about their vault space. I won't be.
Not a problem you're going to encounter.
Because there won't be anything in it. But yeah, it's going to be nice to be able to start fresh, get a better idea of where I am. But like you said, I'm not too worried about my numbers, but it'll give me a little bit better of an idea. I have watched my numbers go up since we started the podcast, since I started following the playbook. Those are quantifiable. Like I can see that, I've gone from like an 8 DTR score, which is that's a low score, and that's because I spent a lot of PvE, and the only time I ever really jumped into PvP was like Iron Banner or when we were bored. And then when I started focusing on it, I saw it go up. I think I'm sitting around like a 22 or something like that, but that's a quantifiable number. I've watched myself get better through that number. Mm-hmm. And even down to the different game types, I'm like, I got better at trials, I got better at skirmish. But like you said, I will be starting new, starting fresh. If anybody wants to carry me through some things, please let me know. I'm going to need it. If you have the Gorgon checkpoint, I need exotics, so please let me know
you're
for that.
Get your universal remote, and then you'll just be set.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Birds. What I think something happened to you this week, right?
Well, guys, it's been a long time coming. And look, it's not a race. It comes for different people at different times. Just because you're later than some of the other boys doesn't make it a bad thing. My Her Benevolence finally arrived. I've been grinding out Prison of Elders, all 3 characters every week, pretty much since House Wolves. Might have missed a couple in there. This gun that everybody's had forever. And I had some decent snipers to begin with, but this was the flavor of the week, and this was the one I wanted. And after so many weeks, I got the perfect roll for it after 4 re-rolls, so I guess took a little bit of mercy on me. Mm-hmm. So, I got a cool gun that everyone else has, and I'm happy about it. But I took it into the Crucible this week, and I've really been focusing on my sniping. And I went up against a really great sniper, and we were playing on Pantheon, so total sniper map. And I just, from the very first moments of the map, I realized, this guy's just better at sniping than I am. He's quicker, he gets more headshots. I could just feel right away that I was outclassed by him, and then I beat him. And I just had all of our past interview guests just saying, respect the sniper, man. Respect the sniper in my head. So I wasn't peeking twice. I wasn't in predictable places. I was moving around a lot. I was finding different angles. And I ended up carrying my team and coming out on top on it. And it was a confidence boost, and I realized, I might not be the best sniper in the world. I might not have the perfect mechanical sweeps. I'm getting better. It comes in time, but I can absolutely be competitive just by not going for the quick kill and relying on my instincts to beat the other guy, but instead trying to get the drop on him. And at least this one time it happened, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Hey, good job.
That's one of my favorite tips as of late is that just that simple, like just find a different route, back off. Like that's probably contributed to thousands of my deaths. It's just like, I'm gonna get him. I'm just gonna, stand in this sniper lane, let him snipe me in the head.
Yep.
But lately I've just been backing off like you have, find a different angle.
Yeah.
It works a lot. Like, you'd be surprised.
Guys, it has been an interesting week in the world of Destiny, and to be honest, and like this is the honest truth, I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all the news that has come out this week.
A little bit. I'm definitely whelmed. I don't know if I'm overwhelmed, but it's close.
I'm fully whelmed.
I'm fully whelmed as well.
Yeah, I think in a few weeks I will be overwhelmed, but currently I'm perfectly whelmed, and it's a lot. Well, as soon as I get more whelming, then I'm overwhelmed. So, Birds, I don't know how you could handle any more whelming.
I really can't. I'm just going to have to be very careful with the news I pay attention to.
What's this news you're talking about, dude? Spit it out.
All right, so Taken King is they are starting the hype train, and they are dropping all sorts of juicy details. We saw that Game Informer article. Honestly, so much of the stuff I'm excited about is not PvP specific. It's just cool new stuff that's happening in the game.
Quality of life stuff, definitely.
Quality of life stuff. I mean, I might not have to decide what shaders I'm going to keep and which ones I'm going to dismantle.
Or even go into the tower to turn in bounties. You don't have to do that anymore.
Right. Suffice it to say, we are all very excited about that stuff.
Okay, let's get it out of our system, because we are a Crucible podcast. You hear that, everyone? We talk about the Crucible. We talk about Control, Skirmish, Salvage. I'm not going to list them all. You get it. But
not so much salvage.
Let's be generous here.
Once a month. But what I want to do is get it out of our system. What are we excited about? Name one or two things non-PvP that you just can't wait for in the Taken King, and then we'll never talk about it again.
Birds, you start.
Oh, no, not me first. 15 seconds.
I'll start.
We're reaching to get a window. Bones, yeah, go for it.
I'm so happy that year one guns are not progressing into year two. I'm so tired of using the same guns. I know you love them. They're great. They're really fun. Watch your highlight clips and enjoy it, and move on. I deleted so many guns this week already, just in excitement. Also, the Warlocks are getting a helmet that has horns on it, and it's the most coolest thing. And I'm not talking about the Ram because I hate the Ram. Did I just say that? I'm talking about the horn with from deers, and I can't even talk. I'm so excited for that.
Antlers.
Oh, it looks so
Antlers.
good. Antlers, those are the things.
Swain, give me something.
Can I just say Sunbreaker for 15 seconds?
Yep.
Starting now.
All right, Sunbreaker.
Sunbreaker.
All right. Really, really long raid. Supposedly the biggest we've had. New guns, gun bounties for quests for guns.
Did you say Sunbreaker?
Sunbreaker as well.
Okay.
Can you give me 3 more Sunbreakers and then we'll call it?
Sunbreaker, Evil Levante, Sunbreaker.
Couldn't agree more. I'm going to go ahead and say this. We don't know everything that's coming in the Taken King. I'm excited to see what comes in the next 3 weeks. That's what I'm most excited for.
Birds refuses to speculate.
I can't. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it. There are so many things I want. No, I will not speculate.
Are you about to say Sunbreaker?
Sunbreaker.
Sunbreaker.
What are the news?
New Ghost.
What things are coming that are PvP, guys? That's our podcast. Talk PvP.
All right. I feel better.
So, just recently we found out that we've got a new game mode. It is Control and is purely focused on. It's called Zone Control. It's purely focused on the objectives. And as someone who pretty much ignores capture points unless I have a bounty, it's probably good that this is coming along. I just feel like a sitting duck on a capture point, Somebody's just going to Nova bomb you and your 3 closest friends, and you'd be like, you should just let those 3 guys get it. You don't need to help.
Well, I think the big issue was that most people didn't realize that the zones have very little to do with your score in Control, and, throwing yourself on to be like the Persians attacking the Spartans is just not helpful to the, the overall score. So I think that, really getting this objective specific game mode is going to be really fun, really awesome, along with Rift, very objective based. Those two games are going to be pretty interesting and fun.
I do say you will probably get that guy who's a blueberry who is going to capture that third point every single game.
Yep.
And
you wave, you try and get his attention, you do a little dance, but
it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Will people start to get the idea of control a little bit better because the count, obviously the kills don't count, but people are still going to kill each other the entire match. Yep. There'll be people that the screen will pop up and be like, this guy didn't even capture 1 point. What was he doing? Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, it might turn out that the best strategy in zone control is to hold all 3 control points. Or maybe there's going to be like 6 control points and you've got to hold all of them.
Oh, yeah, we don't know that for sure. That there could be more than 3.
There's probably just going to be 3.
Yeah. But 8 new maps, right,
8
guys?
8 new maps.
Am I correct on that number?
8 new maps, plus... Is there a PlayStation exclusive one in there as well? I would assume. Yeah.
It looks like we're going...
That one that's in the wall. I think that's the PlayStation exclusive one.
Right. We're going to the Cosmodrome wall. Looks like we're heading back to the European Dead Zone. That might be a mission, but we're going to see some good backgrounds and things like that. The map that has all the man cannons, I'm very stoked for. Mm-hmm. I think it's called Crossroads, maybe. And it's back to that old Halo days of just flying across the map from a gravity boost and stuff like that. And that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Definitely.
They've got the one that takes place in the tower or the tower alike. And just looking at it, I mean, we've mostly seen it for the, what do they call it? The capture the flag mode, Rift. But honestly, I would love to play some skirmish on that. I mean, it seems like a relatively straightforward map with some cool vertical elements, some nice angles, and it's the tower. It just seems like a fun place to challenge another team.
I definitely want to see some mayhem skirmish. That could be good on a map like that, or even like they're also taking us to the Dreadnought for a map as well.
Can't even imagine. I mean, and we've seen maybe 4 of the PvP maps or so. There's 8 new PvP maps coming.
I want to know how Shax got down there.
Don't question it too much. Speaking of Shax, I am, and this is probably won't impact, the game that we're playing day to day. It's not the meta game or anything like that, but the fact that they're trying to incorporate lore into the Crucible, I think Luke Smith directly said that he wasn't happy with the way they introduced the Crucible. I mean, they basically didn't. And the narrative aspect to that, I'm a huge fan of narratives in games. It's another reason I'm excited for this expansion. But the fact that they're not only making the main story good and the raid good, but they're looking at the Crucible from that angle, it makes me very happy. I feel very excited about the future for that.
Yeah, they said they're going to add a quest to reintroduce you into those non-playable characters that are in the tower, especially Shax.
Well, guys, we put something out on the Twitter. We put out a question to our listeners to have them ask us the questions they want to hear us talk about the new Taken King stuff coming out. And we got a lot of responses. I was amazed at how many responses we got. And we thought it would be fun to share some of those questions with you and to take a stab at answering them.
Yeah,
we can do that.
So we have 3 here that we wanted to talk about. That we thought were the most poignant, as far as we got a lot of PvE questions, which was a little weird, but
a lot of questions that were for Bungie. And fun fact, we don't work for Bungie. We wish we did. Maybe someday. We've sent Deej a million emails saying, "Hey, please, can I just be your personal assistant?" But they haven't responded. So until then, we can't actually tell you what the raid is going to be like and things like that. We don't know.
I just want one of them stress balls that are shaped like an engram. Like I'll take that.
I feel like that would be
payment.
more useful than your average engram anyway. So.
Shots fired, dude.
Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm out there.
Our first question is from @golfrat. Are you guys okay losing your perfectly rolled Iron Banner weapons and fresh new Trials loot? Thank you, Golfrat.
Well, Thank you, Golf Rat, who goes by Destiny as my stripper name. Thought that was fun. Nice
good.
work. Well, so Bones, you talked about this a bit, but truth is, we're not losing anything. You don't have to dismantle anything you don't want to dismantle as long as you got vault space for it. And look, I've got LDRs that I'm never, ever going to get rid of. I don't care what comes along. That's my special gun. I made memories with that gun. But more than that, okay, so we have Trials and we have Iron Banner where level counts, and we probably are going to get outclassed with new Taken King stuff that just does more damage, and just from a attack and defense point of view, we can't justify using our old stuff. But in regular Crucible, where we have the level balancing, that doesn't matter. You could keep on using your Kostov if you wanted. So I'm absolutely going to hold on to these guns, and that I don't necessarily get to take them into Trials with me. I'm going to be optimistic and say I'm going to have some other new hotness that I want to take into Trials. I think I'll be okay.
As far as being okay goes, I'm more than okay. Like I said, I deleted weapons. As soon as I heard that, they weren't being leveled, and I know Cosmo had the response on Reddit saying, don't delete everything just yet. Of course, I'm not going to, immediately trash my Her Benevolence or my Radagast that I put 200 motes of light into. But I'm kind of like an anti-hoarder. I do the opposite, where I throw out too much and then sometimes go, might have needed that. But it's been a year of Destiny now where I've looked at my vault almost every day going like, haven't used that. Don't need it. And Ascending was kind of cool. It did make some guns really useful. If we're talking Prison of Elders, the Vault of Glass weapons were some of my most used in the prison, absolutely. But I don't want to use Fatebringer over and over and over again for another year. I don't want to keep sniping people with Her Benevolence. I want one of those sick Omelon snipers. I want to see what the new perks are. I think the game is getting more and more balanced, and I said this, I think, in episode 5 about how maybe it was last week too, the perks and the ability to re-roll have been Bungie's way of balancing the Crucible in between massive weapon patches, and we're going to see a lot more perks and a lot newer things that we're going to like more, and I am going to jump on those as quickly as I can.
Well, that leads us into our second question by Zach Lee, that COD noob.
COD noob?
COD noob. Do you think reforging should be allowed on all weapons still? Only certain weapons or none at all?
I'll keep talking. I got since I was just talking about that.
You're on a roll, man. Keep on rolling.
I love the reforging. I think it's really fun because I think of course, we have these beautiful guides on the playbook, our Crucible playbook, if you haven't checked that out, and that they'll tell you the best, because you can make a decision between 3, but don't use replenish. Don't cast a super to refill your magazine. That's a waste of a perk, which would otherwise get you more kills, that kind of thing. And I really look forward to what they're going to be adding, because there's been all this, of course, panic about the 2.0 weapon balances, thinking, well, this gun's going to be useless, blah, 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 this is the new meta. We don't know that, because you can only think in the way that balance applies to the current set of weapons. And sure, if they dropped that 2.0 weapon balance on us right now, we'd go straight into a different but the same meta where certain guns are the strongest. And I think that so many people are crying nerf. It's not a nerf, it's just a balance, and when those new guns come in, you'll see why they're doing what they're doing. And I look forward to continuing to make guns that appeal to me and are not just the best. And I'm really looking forward to seeing so many different playstyles in the Crucible.
I would like to say that it'll kind of be like before, when we just had Iron Banner weapons that were reforgeable. I think there's going to be certain weapons that you'll get that you'll just be like, oh, this is just not reforgeable. I have to deal with this. Maybe that'll add another layer of customization that we might need to, make weapons more geared towards certain players. Mm-hmm. And then reintroduces that luck of the draw, the RNG. Even with like what they said about the gunsmith, where you're going to be able to test a weapon out and you'll get a random weapon on Wednesday with a random roll. I think that's kind of cool.
I guess I have mixed feelings about it. The thing that was frustrating about sort of the vanilla Destiny was that it was difficult to get guns, and they were randomly rolled, and you were stuck with the roll that you had. And really, aside from exotics and Iron Banner, that was it. That was the only option. And so when House of Wolves came along, and every gun that you could buy at a vendor, every House of Wolves legendary, with a couple exceptions, was rerollable, that brought out the min-maxer in me, and it's like, I want to figure out what's the best. I will say there are some of the non-rerollable guns that came along in House of Wolves, like Jewel of Osiris, that I just love. And the reality is that if I had a hand cannon and I rolled it with Icarus and Third Eye, I probably wouldn't hold on to it. I'd probably go, it's not a great roll. But somebody picked this. Someone chose a set of perks to work well together, a set of scopes on a certain type of gun, and they said, here's what it is, and it's this curated gun. And I've really fallen in love with those. So to have a mix of sort of stylized guns where everything is set and determined, and I could see myself using any of those in the Crucible.
We could be looking at this, that's kind of what I just said, but, we're applying these ways of thinking to the current guns that we have because it's what we know, but the guns could work differently. There could be different perk trees. It might not be scopes, main perk, middle perk, third perk, you know what I mean? And, they mentioned briefly that Suros are very customizable, Haka are geared towards attack but still customizable. We don't really know what they mean in that context, so it could be that maybe there's more nodes to fill out, or maybe there's different way to change the gun that you want to, than shuffling everything and picking from a list of rolls randomly. That, like Swain said, the gunsmiths awarding you a weapon once a week or making it available for purchase could be a different way of re-rolling. So it might not be the exact same mechanic, but I do believe that they will offer some abilities to tailor a gun to how you play.
You may even have to level up to the point where you can reforge something with the gunsmith. All right, let's move on to our last question by Javier.
What's up, buddy?
Javier.
Hello. He wants to know, would you guys talk about the changes to leveling and the impact to Crucible? Moving away from light levels is concerned and moving to an experience.
That's a tough one. That's interesting. I think this is the most speculative one because they're revamping the process so thoroughly, and I'm really excited for it. It's going to be cool, but it's really up in the air as far as how that even works. I mean, we don't even know. I think, if we're talking Trials and Iron Banner, which of course will remain, I don't know. It could be that the difference between a level 40 and a level 38 is kind of like how a difference between a 34 and a 33 is now. I'm hoping they balance that scale and that you can't just easily walk into Iron Banner as a level 15 or whatever and succeed. I mean, you got to earn your place to compete.
I love the level up animation where it just rocks your entire screen. Like, you're level...
The best part about starting over is getting to see that again, that flash.
Level 34. That'll be nice to come around. I have a feeling like as you get closer to the max level, the amount of experience you have to pour into it is going to be exponential. Mm-hmm. The new strikes, the new story will progress you closer to the max level, but you're going to have to put some work in it to get to that point. And as far as PvP is concerned, we've seen it lately, like there's not much of a difference between those like 2 or 3, even 3 levels when you go into like Trials or Iron Banner. Mm-hmm. It's really like once you start hitting 4 or 5 that you start to see the difference. So I have a feeling it's not going to affect us too much. It's going to be, who knows, they could put out some sort of new way of balancing the Crucible that, what do I know?
I think what it means is that we will be less focused on equipping gear that gets us to max level and more focused on equipping gear that fits our playstyles and gives us the best advantage, which I think is what makes the game the most interesting. So sort of not worrying so much about like, I haven't ascended this piece of gear, so I shouldn't wear it. Mm-hmm. I don't want that to be my concern anymore. I just want to put on the gear that has the perks that I want.
aesthetics. It could just be simply aesthetics. Like, you'll be able to wear the gear that you like.
I don't really have anything to add to this. I mean, I can't honestly, like, I hate not being max level. I just want to get there and not have to worry about it. So as long as it's not a crazy grind, it's fine. I'll wait and see.
I'm looking forward to listening to this episode like a month from now and being like, we are so wrong.
Oh, yeah.
The speculation is under Birds' skin. I can see it.
No, I'm totally fine, guys. I'm totally fine.
I like this whole Twitter interaction. I think we're going to keep doing it. So if you do have something that you want to hear, go ahead and tweet at us. We want to know what you want to know. And yeah.
You can find us both on Twitter and Facebook now at Crucible Radio for both of them. So hit us up.
You know, speaking of fan interaction and this whole question thing, yeah, I guess I have to make another rap song.
Bones has more for you guys.
Yeah.
He's not going to quit.
Well, look, I'll say this. I have a finite number of wordplay Destiny references, especially with the current state of our Crucible. That's sarcastic. But we are going to do something with part 2 featuring Triple Rec. So look out for something hitting YouTube soon. I think that's going to be really cool, and we have some cool ideas to add to the part 2. And you know what? Like, I'll add something for The Taken King. I mean, there's too much content not to rap about it. I love rapping. And Birds is telling me to wrap it up. I get it, Birds. If you do want to download it, crucibleradio.bandcamp.com. Don't go on my weird personal SoundCloud. I didn't really think this was going to be a thing. So find it on Bandcamp. There'll be a link below. You know how it works.
We have a contest for you guys that kind of involves this. Why don't you tell us about it, Bones?
Okay. So, guys, girls, all fans, follow us on Twitter and tweet at us your best Crucible rap. You get 140 characters, but I want to hear your hottest mixtapes of 2015, and the best, dopest rap will get a Red Bull code, and it's going to be awesome.
The more gun-related puns you can put in there, the better. That's clearly the high water mark.
It really is. It really is.
Guys, we'll get back to the nitty-gritty, hearing us talk about Crucible next week. For people just tuning in the show, we're going to go a lot deeper than we went this time. So to make up for it, we got this amazing guest coming on. Should we go ahead and bring him on?
Yeah, do the thing where we cut to music.
Okay, like a musical break.
Musical break.
No singing.
Oh, sorry.
Break me. Piece of that musical break.
Gratitude in the life you lead. Had your plan to max out your well-being. Build it up and break it down.
Hello, listeners, new and old, a lot of new. We are so excited to see the positive reception that has been a result of us partnering with PlanetDestiny. Make sure to check out all their stuff. They have an amazing amount of resources. Keep tuning into us for Crucible-specific resources. You know what? You like that rap song? I guess, because, wow. Go to crucibleradio.bandcamp.com. Follow us on Twitter at Crucible Radio. We love hearing feedback. We want to hear from you, and we want to keep making this show better, so it's better for you.
Survey gratitude in the life you lead. Had your plan to max out your well-being.
I am very excited to welcome to the show the guy who is going to take us all to the next level. We've all been watching his videos on YouTube and on Twitch and just like getting our brains expanded on some next level Destiny stuff. Fizzer, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thanks. I don't know. I'm pretty glad to be here, so it should be a fun time.
Dude, it's been it's an honor to have you on, and it's funny because I have learned more from your videos in the last 2 months than any other source. No shots at anyone else, but it's been said that you are, playing a different game, if you will, and obviously you're playing Destiny, but you talk about strategy and positioning in a way that not a lot of other players ever get to or ever really can vocalize in the same way. So where did that come from? What's your history with gaming, and how does that, transition into Destiny to set you up to win in you know, to approach the game the way you do?
Well, basically, I started gaming at a really young age. My first game that I ever played was GoldenEye on Nintendo 64 at my friend's house. And I know this sounds like a ways back, but like that's really where it started for me. And I eventually got my own Nintendo, and you know, worked all the way through middle school, played a bunch of different games. And middle school was when I really got into, you know, that's when Xbox Live came out. I started playing Counter-Strike on the Xbox, and Gears of War and Halo 1 and Halo 2 and just everything I could get my hands on, and FPS wise. But it wasn't until after high school that I really started to take it pretty seriously. I figured out I can just plug my Xbox into my computer and stream, and not that many people were doing this at that time. So, and then I just kind of mixed and molded myself into this, and I started streaming Halo Reach, and I ran into Ninja, who's a large streamer there, and I just really started to want to step up my own game, because when you start playing in front of people, you're like, okay, like I can't make excuses like you can offline. Like there's people watching this, you know, and you'll get called out on that. So that hit me hard really quick, and it just made me want to get a lot better. So I started just putting a lot of time in, and I pretty much what I'm getting at is that I've put 4 to 5 years of time into studying like competitive FPS at that level.
Well, so you kind of got a chance to grow up with Halo. I mean, you've been with it since the beginning, and you've watched it sort of develop into this game. I mean, I think so much of what we have in Destiny today really came from Halo, and in Destiny, like, look, we're still early days. I mean, I guess, could you maybe talk a little bit, how is Halo like Destiny, and how is it different?
I think one common thing is that a lot of people think that it's really far off from Halo, and the reality is that it's actually super similar. There's a couple of differences. Obviously, you have supers, and you have you know, special ammo is placed a little differently and stuff like that. But the reality of it is that you're still good positioning, teamwork, communication, and stuff like that are really going to come in strong over everything. So I think that's one of the biggest key factors.
So let's dive right into it. You like to preach a very controlled setup. What do you think is most important? Armor, agility, recovery, and I also, being a MIDA user myself, I want to know how that figures into your decisions with those three.
I'm a big advocate for max agility builds. I think that they're really strong. One of the common things that I hear the second I say that is somebody that loves to go full armor, and they will say something along the lines of like, well, with full armor, I can survive a trip mine, you know? But the idea here is that you can just walk right past that trip mine, and it's not even going to hit you regardless. So the agility is really important because it allows you to outmaneuver your opponent and reposition and beat your opponents to certain spots. So if you're battling for like a strong spot near B flag or something like that, you can beat your opponent there and then win the battle from there, rather than getting caught off guard in transition between two power positions on the map.
So we know, like with the MIDA multi-tool, like you get that huge speed boost. I mean, I definitely feel like I see you rocking that more than anything else. Is that the main thing with MIDA, or is there something else about it that you think is a good fit for your playstyle?
That's definitely the main thing. I think it really shines really well on an Inferno playlist where there's no radar, and you can really take advantage of the swiftness that you have. You're not constantly being tracked, all of your movement at all times. So if you set something up and you're like, hey, I want to do a quick flank real quick, you can do that. You can pull it off and get out of there, or strafe on your opponent. And that's one of the most enjoyable things, is watching a Thorn user miss all of their shots and they're just sitting there laughing. So the agility is definitely a huge thing about it. Another thing that I like about it is you have 21 bullets in a clip. The kill time isn't drastically worse than a Last Word or a Thorn, and with playing in an Inferno style, you can really get like the first shot on somebody, or like I said, outmaneuver them in ways that you really couldn't do with any other class.
We were just actually about to ask about Inferno. It's interesting because Mida Multi-Tool has that lovely third eye mechanic and stuff like that, and I know I rely on the radar probably too heavily. So what is it about Inferno that appeals to you, or maybe gives you an advantage compared to the regular playlists?
Well, I think it feels really natural coming from a competitive Halo scene. You don't have a radar over there, and that was one of the hardest things for me, but I am so fortunate that I've been able to have learned from some of the best players in FPS and stuff like that, and to learn how to, if you position yourself in a solid spot, you can predict enemy movement a lot more than you even realize you can. And I think that element of the game is really awesome. Personally, I feel that a radar is going to kind of take somebody who has potential to be an amazing player on their own and a player that isn't quite that great, and it just kind of blends it together to meet in this mushy middle of where they're stuck and there isn't much room. So, when I'm stuck on playing on a radar and being tracked, all of my movement all the time, if I go to make an educated flank, if I know a couple players are spawning in a certain area and I want to come behind them and take use of the Hunter backstab ability or something like that, it's very hard to do that when they're oh yeah, this guy's coming behind us. You just turn around and shotgun to the face.
Right.
There's a quote in one of your videos that really stuck with me because I'm trying to learn how to snipe. And you had said in one of your videos, people ask me how I'm so good at sniping, and it's because I'm positioned well. Can you talk a bit about that? Because I would like sniping to be easier.
Yeah, and to get into understanding how to position yourself well, you have to first understand how the maps work. I think one of the beautiful things is that Bungie has set up these maps in a way that it's consistent, where A flag is always going to be a more dominant flag to hold than C. And
why is that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons to it, and I know that there's a common misconception that C and B is a great setup to work with. But one of the biggest flaws about holding C, and you can test this out on your own if you play, if you pick any point behind C flag or around C flag, when you look at one angle in front of you, one line of sight, you're always exposing your left or your right or your backside or something out there. So the way that these maps are designed is that around C, there's just too many angles. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are, you can't cover all of them. But on if you flip it and you stand behind A flag, you have objects and lines of sight that you can eliminate certain angles so you can focus on a target individually rather than a scatter of multiple targets. So you can put yourself behind a rock or behind a wall and just focus on one angle at a time, and you get to choose how many angles you're looking at, whether it be one or you advance a little bit further towards B, and now you're looking at a couple more angles and a couple more. So you get to adjust the gauge of how much you want to challenge other opponents, depending on how much health you have or how many people are coming at you and all these kind of things. And it puts you in a lot more control in the first place rather than standing out in the wide open.
So does this strategy work on new maps? Say you go into the Taken King, brand new map you've never been on. Is the A/B strategy work on? You're going to try that first, or you're going to feel out the map?
First thing first, would definitely be able to feel out the map, because it just so happened that whoever created the maps for Destiny and decided the flag points kept it consistent. So I would assume that going into Taken King, they're going to keep up with that consistency of it. But we may never know. They could change it around. It didn't come from necessarily the flag being titled A, where I'm like, oh, that's the one we want to hold. It became just from Halo knowledge of, if you're familiar with Halo, then you'll know that height advantage and being able to eliminate these angles and allow you to focus on just one target at a time, while not being shot by another one, is a massive thing in the first place to becoming successful. So it doesn't really matter where the flags are placed, as long as the game, the map, is functioning correctly. You know what I mean?
So you talk about that vertical aspect to it. A big difference between Halo and Destiny is that Destiny's got maps that are very asymmetrical, both from a horizontal point of view and from a vertical point of view. Are there any rules of thumb for how you want to use that asymmetry to your advantage?
Definitely. I would say in Halo there really were, but the crazy thing to me, and I definitely praise the people that have made the maps in Destiny, because they're so good at creating an optical illusion in front of you where you may be on a higher advantage spot, but it's a harder angle for you to hit sometimes. Majority of the time, like if there's a box or a unit that I can jump on to give me a little height advantage, I usually do that, because that's going to make your shot easier to strafe and easier to just land those shots, but it's also a lot harder for your opponent. But there are a couple situations like Shores of Time where a flag feels like it's on low ground, but because of the angling of the map, it's actually a really strong position to be at.
Okay, so talking about positioning and stuff like that, and what is a setup, and how do you get yourself in a setup? I was recently watching a little clip on Widow's Court, and you really emphasize
the show notes,
controlling that the little hut up there and stuff like that. Do you want to prioritize that over everything, run right there and get there, or do you want to work your way over? How does that setup come into play?
I think one of the most important things about that depends on, are you playing alone or do you have a unit that you're working with? Because that will justify what you can get away with and what you actually want to spend your time doing. Say I do spawn on an area that I don't like and I want to work my way to the high ground or to something that I'm trying to hold. I definitely don't just drop everything and go right there, because you need to just whittle your way there, get a couple kills on the way, and it will start the spawn cycle to be in your favor where the other team's going to start spawning behind you. Sometimes if you're playing alone, sometimes it is nice to just go ahead and sneak behind and get a strong spot. But to really answer your question about what a setup would be or how it really works is, depending on how many players you have, say you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but initially that first person has to set up in the strongest spot, which would be behind A flag, and then there are positions all the way up to B that a player can fill in on, and they can hold those spots, and effectively you keep the other team spawning on the C area of the map, and those angles are very harsh for them to come upwards. Like, it's almost like a hill, if you're on top of the hill, it's very easy to shoot downwards, and it's very easy to keep your opponents pinched down there and spawning at the bottom of the hill. It's really hard for them to walk upwards, and effectively you're just going to choke the other team out. And this is how you get the wins where the point difference is massive and you leave them with under 1,000 points, or just with 500 points. And you do that by, once you get a dominant spot, you don't let go of it until the other team earns it from you.
Mm-hmm. Is the difference between skirmish and control just how many people you have to set up a PowerPoint, and how many people you can base around this one focal point? Or does what makes sense in skirmish, does that differ from what makes sense in control?
Yeah, you're basically correct. It's just the more players means that there's more spaces to be filled in, but as long as you have the solid points held down, which you could do with just a couple people, say you're playing skirmish and you want to set that 3 up in a unit and it can hold something down. A good example would be Twilight Gap. If you want to use behind A flag and the rock section back there, and then another one above B bridge, and then somebody else floating in between there, that's good 3 players. And now that you have 6, everyone can just kind of fill in an area in between there.
So what would you tell people about, some people might think that these static positions are boring.
I would probably agree with you on the fact that they can be boring at times, but it also depends on the resistance that the enemy team is putting up. If you're not playing against the world's greatest players, these kind of setups don't even really come into light. But once you start to play against a really solid team that knows how to hold these positions, and if they take them away from you and never give it back to you, you're going to have a really rough time coming back into that game. So it's really just more so about playing to win versus playing what would really be quote-unquote fun. Because I know a lot of people have a good time just running Blink Shotgun and just running wherever you want to go and right into their base, right into their spawn. But what you're doing when you do that is you're blocking spawns for your team. So let's say you take right from A flag, you run right down the map, you Blink Shotgun into their base, into C, and you start getting a couple kills. Now you're forcing them to spawn behind your teammates. So it's kind of... it can really screw you over if you're playing against really good players.
It's interesting because, a lot of this positioning stuff, or at least I feel like it, it kind of assumes that you have a comfortable control on gunplay and reaction time and stuff like that. But what would you say is a good way to start developing those kind of skills? You know, if you have to, before you're worrying about everyone else on the map, and how do you prepare yourself? And I know obviously it's time put into the game, but do you have any tips to just develop, you know, how you handle your own gun? Is there anything you're keeping in mind while you're playing besides, you know, strategy and positioning? What comes down to the player itself, you know?
One of the easiest ways to get into it is just realizing that strong positioning in general will give you an easy shot. So, you know, it's not like you have to have the world's greatest shot. It's more so about if you're standing in the right spot, the shot becomes easy. And if you learn how to do that correctly, you're just going to naturally improve. So my biggest advice for somebody that's looking to try this out, and it's a lot easier to see in Inferno. And I know sometimes people are a little nervous about going into an Inferno playlist all by themselves. You don't have the comfortability of the radar to know what's going on, and it can be a little scary. But if you do go into that playlist, I recommend starting out behind a flag and just staying there. You know, this may take a couple games to get into, but I think if you can just kind of hang out in that area, you'll start to get a feel of how it goes. There's a couple good patterns, and the angle will always be in your favor. So even if you play a game out and you don't get very many kills, just look at it did you win your individual battles? And that's where you want to start. Now, after you've gotten that, you can kind of build up and figure out how to move out of that position and move forward over towards B flag and start to really control the map in a way. So to really answer your question, I really think it all goes hand in hand. Positioning helps your shot, and you know, you will learn that stuff if you start at the right spot. So if you can take your time with it and just start at working behind a flag and just work your way forward, and you know, just take it as whenever you're ready to move up, you'll move up. Also, a lot of it comes into play of where your teammates can stand to support you. So sometimes when I'm playing alone, I just hang out in that area because I know that if I move up, nobody else is going to hold that area behind me, and the setup collapses in completely. So it's not like it's an unadvanced tactic to do that thing. It's just, it'll be something very comfortable for you to do.
So the positioning and the setups and stuff go hand in hand with, you know, making that gun skill easier, and those 1v1s go a little easier because you're starting off from a better spot.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned is, you know, just by playing Halo with and against some of the best players in the world, if you have no margin to give them, like the person that you're playing against, any advantage, because when you play against the people that aren't going to miss a single shot, you don't have the luxury of doing so. So that's why it's really important to start in a spot that gives you the strongest advantage on the map and in the game.
I think what we're talking about right here is pretty radically different from the way most people approach the Crucible. I mean, I know for sure it just made sense to me when I was first starting off, like you start somewhere in the map and then you go run around and you find some people and you get them. And what you're saying is that you really want to pick an area and control that area. And a lot of this has to do with spawns. So for somebody who doesn't understand spawns, we don't show up on the map randomly after we die. Give us Spawn 101. How does that work?
Spawn 101 is going to work based on where you are on the map and where your enemy teams are on the map. The game is always going to try and give you the most advantageous spawn that you can get on map positioning, but it's also not going to, it's going to try its best not to spawn you right next to an enemy. Sometimes you do, but that's what this whole positioning thing is about, so that you can orchestrate and coordinate the enemy team spawns to always spawn in a harder angle to fight out of, so that you have the advantage to win your battles over and over and over again. And so the basic stuff about spawns is just learning how to read the spawn that you get. When I spawn in, I look exactly at where the players are around me, and most of the time, I see a lot of players doing this when I watch streams. Sometimes somebody will spawn in and they'll do a complete 180 and turn right back around, and you don't really want to do that. You have to trust in the game giving you a good spawn, because the Destiny spawn system is actually pretty advanced and it's actually really good. You just have to learn to trust in it, and a lot of it comes from knowing how the map works, and knowing the route to be taking after you get that spawn.
So the setup is designed to say, okay, we're going to control this section of the map. So the game is going to put all of the enemies that we kill off on some other part of the map. So if we're locking down A, they're not going to put us in A with them. They're going to put them over on C. What can happen to a team that might jeopardize that control of where people spawn?
Well, one of the biggest things is just you start to lose, like it breaks the map into straight chaos if you don't really keep it on a controlled point. One of the common things that I see when I play with my subscribers, and they've actually gotten really good with it, I've been really impressed with how much the people that watch my channel want to learn these things and implement it. So I enjoy mostly playing with my subs that are, just because they get some of these concepts, and it's so easy to play around when they just don't do some things that would cause complete chaos on the map. Every now and then we'll have a solid A and B setup, and it'll be the early part of the game, maybe 2 minutes into the game. The games are like 12 minutes long, so you got to think, there's still a lot left. There's a lot of time. Just because you got the setup doesn't mean you go crazy and just run into C. The idea is that you leave C flag as it is. You let the enemy team spawn there. And C is generally a decently large amount of space for spawns, but as there's usually a choke point that right when they try to come through, you will have the advantageous angle. And that's what you're looking for. And some people, they want to go right from B and just go blink and get into C and pick up maybe 2 or 3 kills. Now, what you've done is you've gotten the 2 or 3 kills and you feel good about it. What you've done is you've also ran through a lot of spawn points, blocked a lot of them, and you're now forcing more influence on those people you just killed to spawn behind your own team in an even stronger spot than where you're set up. So it's very dangerous. But when you start doing that and you start to play against good players that'll understand how this works, they're going to get a free flank on your teammates. And effectively, if they do it right, they could wipe your whole entire team and take your setup directly, like right from underneath your feet.
All right, so let's try something a little, apply it to the game. Let's talk about specific maps and maybe how you might start the game in that map. Think about what area you want to set up in, and then maybe a little bit about how you continue from there. But let's see if you can, really nail it on a physical level so that our listeners can go, okay, I'm dropping into Pantheon. This is what I should think about doing. So you think you can handle like a lightning round of maps and maybe where your setups might be?
Yeah, I could definitely go through some of that.
All right, cool. All right, well, let's start with let's start Pantheon, because we see it in trials all the time and I see it too much in Control. So what's your first move on Pantheon?
Well, what flag am I spawning on?
A.
Okay, so if you spawn A flag, your most important thing is that you don't want to give it up. So my first thing that I always do is get a read of where my teammates are going. Most of the time I'm searching alone and I don't have communication with these guys, or I don't know their playstyle or trust all their moves on the map. So I'm perfectly fine. The first thing I want to do on spawning on A flag is you don't want to lose it. So like my first move would be to spawn and hug that top hall, that right side. I usually go right up there, and I love to snipe, so I'm going to look straight across and try to get an early pick on their players that are coming from the C flag to try and get control of that top heavy.
What about Exodus Blue?
Swain's favorite map.
Well, I got my PlayStation. A viewer donated it to me, which was awesome.
Oh yeah, that is a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, it's totally cool because fortunately enough, I got it 2 days ago, and I had an awesome time leveling up my 1 to 20. I'll tell you that. I was dropping 5.0 KDs playing with people that had like 0.7s, and they were struggling in some of the games. And first off, let me give you a tip. If you're leveling up a new character, I recommend using the Duke, the starting pistol. That thing is a beast and very underrated. But I don't think I really know the initial spawn points on Exodus Blue enough, but I can tell you that the same strategy applies. The strongest area would be to just float around behind A and somewhere behind B. I didn't really get enough time to test out all the angles because I only played it maybe twice or 3 times, but I had high success rates on it. And it wasn't a lot of people find these maps, they're like, oh, Cauldron's so rough, or all these maps are so I don't like the doors. What I think a lot of it is it comes down to this impact of the radar. Like when you see hey, I'm on the other side of the door. Hey, there's somebody over there. Like, I'm not going through. He's not coming through. Like, it just becomes this big mind game of whoever moves first is going to lose kind of thing. And when you eliminate that radar, you have to keep your head on a swivel. You have to position well. And there's like a lot more energy and excitement, I feel like, in the games. So I enjoy that. Sorry if I couldn't answer your Exodus Blue one.
All right, so here's a map that I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings on. Let's say you spawn in on Seaside in Anomaly. What's your move?
Seaside on Anomaly. Okay, so one of my favorite things is I see a lot of people go right up the ramp to B flag. I'm not a big fan of that. I used to do it a lot. Now what I'll try and do, I think your strongest route is you spawn in on C flag and you hug the right side and you go past what some people call the orange door. You go up into that cave that's opposite from A, and you're going to contest and try and take that back room away from them, clear out the top platform, and then work your way into that A flag and give your team a strong spot there. If you win those battles, you've already set yourself up for success, because you're starting to shift the map to where your team is going to be spawning in A and they're going to be spawning on C where you just were. I think if you try to run right through the center, there are just so many chaotic angles that you can be like clipped from. Blink shotgunners coming across, snipers looking at you right away, grenades coming in. But if you stay around the outsides when you spawn on C and really try to work your way to that A flag, you'll have a lot more success.
Okay, let's talk about my favorite map. Can we do that?
Okay. We can talk about all the maps.
All right. Rusted Lands has been my favorite since the beta, I think, is when that first started showing up, and I love it so much. And I was just watching a game where you played on Rusted Lands and you started on the A side, and you didn't sprint right towards the water tower thing, and you didn't try to snipe someone at C and stuff like that, but you actually went up, got A, and then controlled B a little bit, and it worked great for you. So I'm wondering how you counter that. What happens when you're starting at C and someone has an easier time getting into A, which is protected with walls, and then B, which you can look downwards towards? How do you counter that approach when you're on Rusted Lands from the C side?
I think that's a really good question, and I think the first things first, all the people that try to snipe from C to A or that whole thing, you got to get that out of a habit, because when you play against players that are going to be truly top tier, they're not wasting their time on that, because that kill alone doesn't advance you on the map at all, and it's a high risk, high reward shot. Do you really want to start off your game with that? And even if you hit the kill, like I said, what do you gain out of it? So my first thing is I always go right to B. I don't like to let anyone try to come inside B flag and get that for free. So if you spawn C side and you like, one of your best plays is just to take B flag early. If you can get at least in there, and you don't necessarily have to jump right on the flag, but like get in a strong spot, get some kills, and try to put the pressure on the enemy team. If you can start to work your way up that lane, or even go right down the center, I mean, I love doing that on Inferno. There's no radar for people to be like, oh yeah, he's coming right down the middle, let's just kill him. Like, you can get a nice flank right through there. But the point that I'm trying to make is that if you can get pressure up that B street there on that side and just kind of work your way in. And another good tip, by the way, is when you get to the point that there's that A building there, and that a lot of people make this mistake of going in the side door. That's not what you want to do. You want to turn, look down the middle lane, and then when you're ready, you jump up and through the big window. And there's a lot of different angles that work in your favor that way, and there's a lot of reasons why you'd actually do that. But give that a try. The other thing that I wanted to say is, by putting pressure down that lane and doing all that, you're telling the game that the enemy team should not spawn on that half of the A side. It's going to start spawning them on the backwater tower behind A. It's going to start spawning them in C flag. So if you do that and apply enough pressure through that way, you can actually start to flip the map if the other team isn't positioned strong enough to stop you.
Awesome.
It is such a different way to think about it. And maybe Anomaly is a better example because it doesn't have these enormous lines of sight. Mm-hmm. You're really saying, get to that A flag, get your setup, and then just stay there the whole match.
Sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy because I got to run around and like slide shotgun some guys. But you're really just saying stay there and let them come to you.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the strongest spot. And it sounds like weird because you can't pack 6 people on A flag. So like I don't want people to be listening and thinking like, let's just send them all to A, like we got it. No, like that you need maybe 2 to 3 people in that area just to guarantee that it's a concrete anchoring spot, that you own that spot of the map. Then you kind of want to extend that a little bit and swing out towards B. Let them spawn C. And I mean, since we were just talking about Rusted Lands, a big thing that I see a lot of people do is when they spawn A, they spawn behind the water tower there, and they love to go right up and over and right into C. And like I said before, what you're doing is you're blocking spawns, and the second you walk through that doorway, like that bridge there, that you know, the little doorway I'm talking about, the second you walk right through that, all the angles just are not in your favor. So it's not even worth it to go that route. Like you said before, you saw what I did was I came off that back right A corner spawn by the water tower. You jump right up into the top hut there, and you make your way through A flag and make your way to B. And you do that, that's going to be good. Because, like I said, you can't just pile everyone on A. But if you have that as your anchoring spot, then you can hold B, and then you get to really just choke your enemy team out.
I love all of this like high level thinking and spawn control and all that. But where this will truly shine is in competitive Destiny. Mm-hmm. And we don't have the setup for that yet. We get a ton of questions like, oh, when is custom games coming? Hopefully eventually. But when it does, what do you think the Destiny competitive scene will be like?
I think it's going to be one like no other. And you know, I've heard people even say, you know, Destiny can't be competitive. No, it really can be. It's just going to take a little time. And a lot of the stuff and strategy that I'm talking about now, it works effectively now, but you're going to really see it shine when the community evolves a little bit. Right now, this game feels like the early stages of Halo 1, where everyone's just kind of playing the game and they haven't figured out all the tiny mechanics and little things that you can do to really manipulate your enemy team into having a really hard time to beat you. So I think that right now the best thing is just give it time. And I think that the Destiny competitive scene, we don't really know what it'll hold in store, but I think that this update is like the weapon balancing update for Taken King is going to be awesome. That's a great step in the next direction.
I see you eyeing the Mida upgrade.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, and this is the funniest thing about the Mida, is that there are the weirdest things do really well against it. And one of them being the Atheon's Epilogue, because it has such a high rate of fire that it's so hard to shoot back at. With the Mida, it just shakes your scope, and it's very difficult. The Vex is another good way to play against it. So I think we'll start to see the meta shift a little bit, and I'm really hoping that they bring in more Inferno, because that radar is so limiting for this game to grow. So yeah, I'm just
Well, speaking about the future, do you have any exciting thoughts about the Taken King specifically? New content, anything like that?
I'm excited for the Mayhem mode. I'm gonna go off in that thing. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So, but both the game modes look really fun, and I just can't wait to get my own hands on them.
What class are you looking to take into Mayhem?
I really like the Titan one. I think having that distance,
Sunbreakers.
But I find myself I started this game as a warlock, and I think that's what I'll gravitate towards. But I really do have a good time switching it up. I'll play anything. I'll give it a try. So I'll probably be on all three, just messing around. I don't know.
Yeah, they're almost all too good to resist. If you don't have alts, you're gonna have alts in the Taken King for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely start working on your ultimate alt characters now. You don't want to have Taken King come out and you see a Titan fly by and throw some hammers and destroy somebody, and you're like, wow, I really wish I spent time on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Fizz, thanks so much for coming on, dude. This has been more than informative.
Yeah, for sure. It's been awesome. My one thing is that I just hope that I describe things in a visual way, and I think if you didn't grasp some of the concepts, or even if you did and you want to really see how they get put into effect, like my latest YouTube videos do a really good job explaining it. I've done this where almost every one of my streams I have to spend an hour explaining all this stuff every day, because you get somebody new who wants to know it, and I'm like, all right, well, here we go. So I just explain it all. But I've gotten to the point where I've said it so many times that I've really gotten better with it. Some of my older videos, you can pick up some really good points and stuff, but this has also been a learning experience for me as well. It's taking a lot of knowledge that I've had from past competitive games and being able to really apply it in something that does not have a real competitive scene yet. And it's been something difficult to do because you have to kind of push things aside and really see straight through all that,
Yeah, I'm gonna be taking things back to basics. Just watching these videos and trying to start over with how I approach. Well, where do I go next on a map? What I can say is whether you're watching this on YouTube, whether you're listening on iTunes, whether you're on the RSS feed or the podcast app, check out the description for the show. We're gonna link some of our favorite Fizzer videos and his channel. Anywhere else, if people want to come check you out, how can they find you?
Easiest way to find me would be on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MLGFizzor. You can also find me on Twitter, which would be twitter.com/DenialFizzor. And then my Twitch TV is twitch.tv/Fizzor. So those are my main links. And I'm pretty excited that I just got picked up by the Denial Esports organization, who's a really big name in competitive esports.
Wow, dude, congrats.
Thank
Nice.
you. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, be sure to go see those videos, everyone, please.
Watch them. You will learn something. Change your life.
They're definitely worth it. I mean, like I said before, I have a great time playing with my subscribers on Twitch, and I'm really confident they're going to be some of the best players in Destiny. And I've seen all different kinds. Some players aren't the greatest coming in, but after a week of watching, they're really starting to step up, and they blow past the competition out there real fast. So it's been really nice to see that.
I want that. That sounds nice. You're one of those guys. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. We gotta have you back sometime when Taken Kim comes out, and you can explain this all to us again. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, you guys got Fizzer on the other line, right? We're going to continue talking to him, keep all these secret tips to ourselves?
Oh, yeah, he's got so much more good stuff that, we want to get better, too. I mean, sorry, listeners, but I've got Crucible skills to improve, so we're going to keep talking to him and hopefully find out the secret to the Crucible.
As always, you can find us on Twitter, Crucible Radio, Facebook, Crucible Radio, Crucible Playbook, on Reddit, and PlanetDestiny.com/Crucible Radio. Let's go play some skirmish, guys.
We're out.
Setting up behind A.
Woo!